This is the review. This is basically me throwing everything at you for the unit giant big mama daddy test that's like going to be right before Thanksgiving break. So here we go. There's basically 5 or 6 sections of this thing because it's everything we've studied so far. So it's the oldies but the goodies. It's the what invention led to the need for more slavery? Well, that would be the cotton gin. What president was elected that led to the succession, the bye to the southern states? That would be Abraham Lincoln. First battle of the Civil War, you need to know it. Fort Sumter. You remember that one where like nobody died but the person with 100 guns to the loop, boom, and then it makes fire, boom, 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 boom. What was the act, the only act that you need to know for the Civil War? Kansas-Nebraska Act that caused Bleeding Kansas. This is the act that said some states would come in free, some states would come in slave based on the popular sovereignty of the people moving there. It caused problems. What was the discovery that led to less deaths in the Civil War? Bromine, of course. That was the thing that like caused less death of infection. What was the new invention or innovation in guns? The mini ball. It was more accurate, caused amputations, terrible stuff. What advantages did the North have? More factories, which is big because they can produce more. More transportation in the form of railroads, which also big. And more communication, telegraphs. That's the advantages they had. What was the thing? Okay, these are the things that get people confused. 2 things that freed slaves. First, the 13th Amendment. That is like the big one, okay? That came actually later on, but that's the big one. That freed slaves at a federal level. What freed slaves at just the Confederacy? The Emancipation Proclamation. So federal level is the 13th Amendment. Emancipation Proclamation only frees slaves in the Confederacy. Let's go with Total War. Sherman's March goes through Georgia, destroys everything in his path. Total War. Remember. Who signed the surrender? Robert E. Lee signed the surrender that actually ended the formal fighting of the Civil War. Then we have to talk about after the Civil War. So this is Reconstruction. What caused Johnson to become president of the United States? Lincoln's assassination. What organization in the South grew because of the hatred towards freed slaves? The KKK. They were a terrorist organization that did that. And then I'm going to ask you some stuff that's going to go on or a little bit here and there from the Gilded Age and stuff, general stuff you need to know. So invention or the person that dealt with steel in the Gilded Age. That'd be Andrew Carnegie. If you see steel, you know it's Andrew Carnegie. If you see anything about oil or pipelines, that's going to be John D. Rockefeller. If you see anything about the invention of the light bulb, I hope you can say Thomas Edison. And if you ever see anything about alternating current, that is Nikola Tesla. Other things about Reconstruction, remember black codes and sharecropping. These are the 2 things that were put into place during Reconstruction to basically prevent freed slaves from being really free. And this is like the little sneak-in thing that you should know. What gave us Hawaii? Well, the one thing that gave us Hawaii was the Spanish-American War. Let's get to part 2 of the test. This entire thing for part 2 is dealing with immigration. So there's only 2 groups of immigrants that I want you to know for this particular test, and that is the Chinese immigration experience and the Irish immigration experience. Remember, they both suffered discrimination. The Irish came over here for freedom of religious beliefs and other things, but the other thing that pushed the Irish to come over here was the potato famine, which made it basically hard to eat, and people were starving, so they came over here for an easier chance to get food. Chinese immigration experience, they dealt with more racism and more prejudice because they looked differently, and their culture was different compared to the people coming from Europe. They came over here for the railroads, to work on the railroads. Also, they came here for the gold rush, but their experience was met with more prejudice because of the way they looked. Xenophobia, this is a fear of foreigners. It's a fear that basically compels people to do horrible things to people that are different. Emma Lazarus was the person who wrote the poem at the base of the Statue of Liberty, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free." That was the message of bring on the immigrants, followed by Prescott Hall's no more immigrants. He was the counterpoint, the opposite to Emma Lazarus. He was saying no more immigrants. And then we have talked about the 2 places to come here. Angel Island, which is on the west coast towards California. And this is what would bring in Japanese and Asian immigrants. And then you'd have the east coast, which had the Statue of Liberty. Ellis Island is where all the Europeans would come. So that's the immigration unit. You need to know all that stuff. Next is the Gilded Age. I have a whole section on this big old test, just the Gilded Age. And this is going to be, you need to know the following people: John Rockefeller, Nikola Tesla, Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Cornelius Vanderbilt, Henry Ford, Henry Frick, and J.P. Morgan. Morgan. So for Ford, know that he used the assembly line. Know that he paid his workers a living wage. For John D. Rockefeller, it's all about oil, folks. He's the person that sold candy for his family because his dad was basically this bum who didn't help out his family. But he's all about oil pipelines, Standard Oil, everything oil, John D. Rockefeller. Nikola Tesla, he's the person that did alternating current. He worked for Thomas Edison, kind of split away. Andrew Carnegie, all about steel. He's the one that built the bridge and used an elephant to make sure everybody knew it was okay. He's also the guy that gave John D. Rockefeller that bottle of whiskey as like a gag gift for Christmas. Thomas Edison, he's the one that invented the light bulb. He used DC power, and he also was the one that invented the electric chair. Cornelius Vanderbilt, he's the guy that did all the shipping. He actually sold all of his ships to buy railroads. He's the one that blocked one railroad that went to New York City. He's also the one that invested in John D. Rockefeller. Let's go with J.P. Morgan. He's an investor. He allowed Edison to use his house to show the electricity off. He's the one that bailed out the government just by himself. And Henry Frick was the guy that was hired by Andrew Carnegie, did some horrible things like the Johnstown Dam can like fall right onto his lap because he weakened the dam so he can build a nice little country club. He was also stabbed and shot at one time because he was really poor. He treated the workers poor. He's also hired a militia to come in and shoot at protesters and strikers from one of his plants. So that's the Gilded Age in a nutshell. Know it, live it, love it. This section is all about the Progressive Era. Know about the Jungle. This is the book that inspires the Meat Inspection Act. Know about the Triangle Shirt Factory and what that caused. 146 lives lost. It allowed us to have all of the fire safety regulations that keep us safe in the building today. So the Triangle Shirt Factory, make sure you know that. Know all the amendments. So the 16th Amendment is income tax. 17th Amendment is you can vote for senators. And 18th Amendment is no more alcohol, or in other words, prohibition. You need to know about what Muckrakers are. Muckrakers were the journalists that actually showcased all the horrible stuff that was going on in society that made people want to get out there and actually do something. The person that wrote The Jungle can consider it a muckraker to a certain degree because he's showing the light of what's going on in society, so we as a society can change it. Know about the Meat Inspection Act. This is going in there and making sure our meat is prepared safely and sanitarily. And then know about the Pure Food and Drug Act. What you go to the store and buy is what's going to be on the label. Know those, know those, know those, know those. The last section of the test is chronological. Basically, I want you to know the stuff I taught you, what happened first, last, and everything else. The one little caveat to this is some things may have started before something else, but I'm mostly concerned of when it ends. So the Spanish-American War, I would actually put before the Progressive Era, because the Progressive Era may have started right before the Spanish-American War, but it didn't end until afterwards. So keep that type of stuff in mind. And that's the test.